It's the show the establishment warned you about.
Welcome back. It's the Dr. Tommy Show, and I'm glad you're here. We are broadcasting live from the free state of Florida, and I am your host, Dr. Tommy McElroy, from Echelon Health Studios, the newly adapted Echelon Health Studios at Echelon Health Concierge Medicine, and we're glad you're here. Today I wanted to talk to you about some medical stuff, which is not normally what we talk about, but I think it's important because this is a doctor show to talk about some medical stuff. But also we're going to cover some of the other things that we're used to covering, such as some stuff on, what is this on? Oh, some stuff from Ace of Spades, Instapundit, and then local news about local elections. Here we go. This is today's topic, lung cancer. I wanted to talk to you about lung cancer because there's a misconception out there that lung cancer is only for smokers. And I made this blog post because that is not the case. Lung cancer is actually the leading cause of cancer death among smokers and non-smokers alike. And I have some data here. This is on the blog here. And if you read on the blog, in 2021, breast cancer took the lives of 43,000 individuals in the United States. That same year, colon cancer killed 53,000 roughly. Lung cancer killed 124,000 people, nearly 125,000 people. And that includes smokers and non-smokers. And you'll say, well, how many were smokers? And then the answer is about twice as many lung cancer deaths were in smokers. So about 41,000 of that 124,000 deaths in 2021 came from non-smoking people who died of lung cancer. And then the other question patients ask is, well, why is that? And I say, well, probably pollution. And we don't know what causes cancer in general. All the other cancers that are caused by things like, chemicals in foods potentially or whatever. Anyway, the point of it is lung cancer kills as many or more people cancer-wise than any other cancer, and we don't screen for it. So, and we meaning the medical establishment. I'm not the medical establishment. This is a show the establishment warned you about. But the medical establishment does not screen for this, and the reason why is probably, I don't know reason exactly, except to say it's possibly related to money and lack of expense associated with screening for lung cancer, which may sound counterintuitive, but if you think about the medicine business as a medical industrial complex, such as the military industrial complex or education industrial complex, then it might make sense that something that is relatively easy to do and cost effective would not be done by the medical establishment necessarily. But anyway, so the way to screen for lung cancer is there is a tool called a low-dose CT scan. And a low-dose CT scan basically is a scan of your lungs that looks for tumors that potentially are lung cancer. And when you do this, you can within a certain degree of certainty know that you don't have lung cancer. And then you'll say, well, that's great. I get a colonoscopy every 10 years. How often do I need to get a CT scan of my lungs to make sure that I don't have lung cancer? And the answer will be every year. The reason why is because the fastest growing lung cancer doubles every 72 days. And it's not, I don't think, appropriate to do it every 72 days or anything like that. But a yearly, I think, is a reasonable thing to do. And so then the other question is, what is the risk of doing a screening for lung cancer? Well, there's a radiation risk. So radiation can cause problems in and of itself. So the amount of radiation you get from a CT scan, a low-dose CT scan, is about 14 chest x-rays. And that is equivalent to living 1 year on Earth. So if you lived 1 year on Earth, it's equivalent to getting a low-dose CT scan, the amount of radiation you get. Some people don't realize that you do get radiation just by living on Earth, but that is the case. And then the other thing that you can get radiation from, which people don't realize, is eating a banana. That is one of the ways you can get radiation. I saw that in my dentist office because people are worried about getting x-rays maybe. And there was a list of things that have equivalent amount of radiation as a dental x-ray. And I think one of them was eating a banana. So bananas have radiation, apparently. Don't tell the gorillas. So that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. And your doctor can order this. It's a cost $100 at Tampa General Imaging, which is our local imaging center that we normally refer people to. It used to be called Tower. Now it's called TGH Imaging. Anyway, $100, low dose CT scan. And note to doctors out there, if you're listening and you're trying to prescribe this, the people who work at the scheduling centers are sometimes not willing to schedule your patients unless you tell them the code. And the code is Z12.2. And that means screening for lung cancer, because we've had some pushback of scheduling people who they said, well, you have to have a reason. Are you a smoker? And the patient says, well, I'm not a smoker. And they say, well, you can't get screened for that. And we actually had one person tell a patient, you can't schedule. And then they texted me, and Tracy called them and chewed them out. And apparently that fixed it, because now we no longer have pushback since we've been implementing the codes, and also maybe since the chewing out. But either way, a screening by definition means you don't expect something. And the person was trying to tell Tracy that you have to have a code that makes you at risk for lung cancer, and then he said something about, well, it has to be, you're repeating something that was done 6 months ago. And that's actually called a follow-up, not a screening, but whatever. Anyway, low dose CT scan helps you know if you have lung cancer or not. Other thing I wanted to talk to you about is testosterone. And testosterone is popular topic, and it's popular amongst men and women, and for different reasons. The reason that it's popular among men is because men have low T potentially. And when you have low testosterone, it can cause you to have problems with libido and erectile function and all kinds of things. Well, when you have low testosterone in women, you also have problems with low libido, and you could also have problems with fatigue, and you can also have problems with sleep and mood and all kinds of things. Anyway, testosterone is something you can check for in men and women. The different ranges obviously are different. And one thing you do have to be concerned about when you do check your testosterone, if you end up getting it replaced, is you have to monitor testosterone levels, and you should monitor your estrogen level if you're a man, because your estrogen actually can go high when you're taking testosterone, even though it's not supposed to be. And I read before on these bodybuilder blogs, and they say, well, high estrogen is not a big deal. Nastrozole, which is the drug that treats high estrogen by blocking conversion from testosterone to estrogen, you shouldn't take that because it's bad for you. And I actually had a couple patients tell me that, and I had to kind of warn them that, I have to advise them that, A, we have not seen any problems with it. Not that it couldn't have any problems, but we haven't seen any problems with it. But I also had to warn them about the dangers of high estrogen in men. And we had a patient once who was telling me that he doesn't know what's going on, but he feels very anxious, and unlike him. And his estrogen was high. It wasn't even that high. It was like the cutoff is 39, I think, on the range we use for our lab. And I think his was like 50 or 60. So it wasn't even that high. And then there was a patient who said that he's seeing commercials, and he's getting weepy at commercials. And then he was driving, and he saw a dog sticking its head out the door, and he just started crying. So anyway, that can happen. Just be careful. So you need to get your estrogen checked as well as your testosterone if you're a man when you're getting your testosterone therapy. The other thing you should do is to check your prostate antigen, your PSA. And so if you check your PSA, you can make sure that you're not having problems with your prostate. So testosterone, when you take it, whether it be injection or topical, is a different way to do it. You can, when you do that, you can cause a tumor to grow fast. So let's say you have prostate cancer, and it's a very tiny, small area, and then you give it testosterone. Well, suddenly you have a worse problem than you had before. Not necessarily that the testosterone causes prostate cancer, but it can accelerate it because you're basically feeding it. It's like fuel to a fire. The other thing it can cause is some problems with enlarged prostate. I've seen that. And the other thing it can cause, one other thing, is about 50% of the people we see have a increase in their hemoglobin or hematocrit or both. And if you have that, then you have to donate blood. The blood donation is typically once a year, twice a year, maybe once a quarter for some people, but mostly it usually falls between twice a year to once a year, maybe once every 9 months, and the people who have to do it. Now, like I said, 50% of people don't have to do it. A lot of testosterone clinics, which we're not a testosterone clinic, we're a concierge practice, but a lot of testosterone clinics like to do pellets. And I guess the reason for that is financial or patient desire or whatever the case is. We don't do it here. I used to do it for patients who had the commercial available testosterone pellet called Testopel. And I ended up stopped doing it on him. And the reason why is because he said that he was starting to have scarring and things like that. And now that he stopped doing it, I've said, I don't want to even do that, because it is true that every time you go in there, you're creating a tunnel and you've got to put pellets in there. And I don't know, it just seems like it's more work than it's worth for me. And so if patients want that, they can go to a pellet clinic and that's fine for them. But here we just use injectable testosterone. We also use topical cream. I will say from my experience, the commercially available topicals are not good, and I would not use those. I don't prescribe those. I use a compounded variety we get from a local compounding pharmacy. And the reason why is I've used that in a couple of patients and their values did not change. They had no improvement. I think one person actually, his testosterone went down. So anyway, that's my experience. Somebody else may have different experience, but that's what we do. Cream is available like I said, from a compounding pharmacy. And then the injectable, we also use compounded testosterone generally. Some patients want from the commercial pharmacy, which I'm fine to prescribe if they really want it, but I would recommend not doing that just because I don't feel like it's as good. I feel like I feel like and actually the price of the compounded stuff is better, but I feel like the commercially available stuff is more hit and miss. But that's just me. That's a little medical business for you. Here's our new website. This is not actually this website here is called conciergemedicinetampabay.com. This is a landing page that I made. This page was made entirely with the help of Copilot. And Copilot is the AI that Microsoft uses for its, I guess, free AI. Anyway, I made this whole website here with Copilot. If you're listening, go to conciergemedicinetampabay.com. If you're watching, you can see it right here. But anyway, this whole website was made with them. And what I did was I just got the idea. I said, well, there's this URL out there called Concierge Medicine Tampa Bay. Why not grab that URL? And I already have a URL that's my website, drtommy.com. And I figured, well, why not just use that URL too? Because it's good real estate to have. And I also have one called echelon-health.com, which is the first website I ever had, but that's kind of a mouthful. And so I got drtommy.com, echelon-health.com points to drtommy.com. But then I acquired conciergemedicinetampabay.com, and I thought, well, I'm going to make a whole website. So I started messing around with Copilot, and I was asking it questions. And it said, well, you know what you could consider doing is, building a website and hosting it for free on Cloudflare. It's like, well, I didn't even know you could do that. He's like, oh, yeah, you can do that. And so back and forth we went, and Copilot basically wrote the code, asked me what I wanted. I told it what I wanted, sent it some screenshots. It took a while. But anyway, it built this nice website. I think it's nice. And it's a landing page for those of you who aren't familiar in the marketing community or whatever they're called, landing pages. And basically it's somewhere where someone's going to hopefully go search this place or search for this term and, say concierge doctor in Tampa Bay. And then suddenly concierge medicine Tampa Bay will populate on their Google or Bing, and they'll click on it. And this is called a landing page. And then they go up here and they say, whoa, look at here. There's membership, physician. So it's not supposed to be very elaborate. It's supposed to be somewhere where you just land. Anyway, Copilot made all this stuff and put these pictures. And then this picture here was actually made by Grok. This is a picture of me in my office and talking to a little boy and a mom from the 1950s. And the prompt I used was, I said, I took a picture of me at my desk with these two empty chairs. And I said, talking with a Norman Rockwell characters. I think I told it a little boy and his mom. And here we are. The little boy's got he's got a little hat there, a little fishing hat maybe, and his mom's sitting there. And so that's the one there. And actually, I'll show you this other one here. That's the Concierge Medicine Tampa Bay. Now, if you go onto the drtommy.com page, oh, there you go. There's Dr. Tommy talking with another Norman Rockwell family. This is a man and a woman. This is the 1950s, so this guy's probably like 38 years old, but he looks 60. And there's a young wife there, pretty lady. Anyway, they came and met with me in a fantasy arrangement. And so here we go. So this is Echelon Health, Modern Medicine, Traditional Values. And that's to scare off any crazy people who don't want traditional values, who want to do something that probably isn't going to help them or me. So we say it's modern medicine and traditional values, and that's enough to make it to where you don't get people who don't belong necessarily in your practice. Maybe they belong in different practice. Nothing wrong with them necessarily, just don't belong here. Anyway, so that's the update with the AI. I've been messing around with AI a lot recently for different reasons. One of them was to set up my solo 401k. So this year, Tracy and I started our own solo 401ks, and I was talking with Copilot about it, and I said, well, I don't know. I don't know what's involved with making my own solo 401k. And I think the thing that AI is good for is it's good as an assistant. I read somewhere that, I think it was on Ace of Spades. They have an Ace of Spades. One of the people is called Pixie, I think her name is, or him. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. Anyway, it's tech news basically. But I think it was the one that said that AI makes easy things easier and harder things harder. And I think that is true, because there's been a couple of times with AI where, for instance, one time my brother printer, not my brother's printer, but my brother printer brand, I showed up one day to work and it didn't work. Anyway, I spent, God almighty, probably 6 hours dealing with this thing, making new certificates, all kinds of stuff. And AI and the Copilot is smart. It knows how to write code. And anyway, round and round we went. And then finally I figured out the best option was, screw it. Don't use my new Mac OS, which was apparently the problem that broke the brother network. Use my old Mac that can't update anymore because it's too old. It's from 2017. And just connect to that computer and use that computer to connect to the printer. So that's what we're doing now. So AI can make easy things easier and harder things harder. But I think it can make things that you don't really know how to do help you. And one of the things I use AI for is an assistant, and like a research assistant. And so basically AI Copilot helped me set up my solo 401k and did a lot of research. I mean, so you can get into trouble with AI. I read one time there's this thing called vibe coding. It's basically where, I don't know exactly what it means, but basically it's where AI you just go with the flow with AI. I guess programmers do it, and then they end up making a big broken mess. And you can break your stuff with AI coding wise. But I don't know. This little website I built, I think it works pretty good. And but anyway, AI, I was using it, but I've been using it to do some other things too, like make these silly things. You'll see at the end of this broadcast, there's a little AI thing. I made a bunch of different AI things. What I'm doing is I'm using the EH logo, which I think is a nice logo. It stands for Echelon Health. Anyway, EH logo. I'm using that in all these little different ads, and you'll see it. My daughter loves it. The youngest one, she says, "Dad, you should make these into ads." And she's so smart. I said, yes. And she loves making AI videos too. She makes some silly ones, but she made one of, we went on a cruise recently. I was going to talk about that a little bit on the MSC Grandiosa. And she made a video of her with these two sharks. And she said, tell the sharks to, tell the one shark to tell the girl to put me down, which was her holding the two sharks that I took a picture of. And then make the sharks dance. And that's what it did. It was really cute. Maybe I'll look that one up. And then, so that's what she likes to do with AI. Let's see what else. So recently we had this special election here in Hillsborough County. We had Josie Tomko, who I don't know who Josie Tomko is, except from her plethora of mailings that she was sent to my house. And which was fine. I mean, I'm registered Republican and she's Republican, so she wanted me to go vote. And I actually did vote. Tracy did not, which may be why we have this news here, which is from yesterday. And it says here, Josie Tomko concedes to Brian Nathan in very close state Senate race for State Senate District 14 race. And there you go. So Josie Tomko, I think that's how you pronounce her name, Tomkow maybe, from Polk City, faced off against Democratic Union leader Brian Nathan, and she lost a narrow election. So, but anyway, I got a plethora of emails from her campaign and associated PACs, I assume, and she still lost. But it wasn't for lack of trying because, like I said, I got a lot of mailings for her. And so that's what happened recently. And the reason that she was running for this office, these two, was because the current lieutenant governor was the local state senator, and he was picked by DeSantis to be lieutenant governor when the current lieutenant or the previous lieutenant governor became the president of a local college or local university. I can't remember which one it was. Anyway, so Josie Tomkow has not succeeded in becoming the state senate. He's talked about something about a recount, but I don't know. It says here she already conceded, so who knows? Anyway, that's local news, and this is so I was like, who is Brian Nathan, and what is his platform? And it says Brian Nathan has spent his life serving his country, his community, and working families of Florida. Now he's ready to take that fight to the state senate, which is basically boilerplate. And it says he's a Navy veteran, he's a union leader. He's a double major in philosophy and sociology. He says he's works with the unions. He's been in union for 10 years. He was in the Navy, and he says Brian knows District 14 needs a leader unafraid of hard work. Okay. So he's not afraid. He's going to fight for good paying jobs, affordable housing, and quality education. And so we'll see. I was just looking to see what it said about the far left agenda, and I see that at least on his website, has nothing about that, which is probably smart to do in Hillsborough County because DeSantis did carry it. Let's see what else we got here. So diving right in, I wanted to talk to you about Ace of Spades. What do they have here? So on Ace of Spades, this is something Milton Friedman once said this. He says, you can have either free immigration or a welfare state, but you can't have both. And the reason he said that was because his point was about immigration in the early parts of our country was virtually free, literally free immigration. You come here, you show up, you're not an axe murderer, you're in. And the reason for that was because that predated the welfare state or the modern United States welfare state, where you can show up and do nothing and get paid a handsome salary equivalent to about $50,000, I think, is the last time I saw it calculated. It says that you can basically do nothing and get the equivalent of about $55,000. in terms of healthcare, direct cash payments, housing, whatever it is. Just show up, do nothing, get paid. Anyway, back in the day, though, as Milton Friedman observed, you could not do that because you showed up, you were let in, and then you worked. And you worked and you succeeded or you didn't succeed, and it was up to you. It was up to you and maybe local groups that were, maybe if you were an immigrant, local groups that were there to help, and churches maybe, or whatever the case was. But anyway, it was largely dependent on you. Well, here's from Ace of Spades, like I said, and according to this report, and this report is from, let's see what this is from, Breitbart. They're linking to a Breitbart. It says, nearly half of households headed by immigrants, those legally and illegally living in the United States, are on one or more forms of welfare, a Center for the Immigration Studies analysis of Census Bureau data reveals. Now, this is surprising to Cato, the libertarian outfit, because Cato is very big on immigration. Cato thinks that there's not enough immigrants in the United States, and there needs to be more, and mostly for reasons having to do with economics. Most likely, they want people in here to work, and maybe people here to work for low wages. But what Cato always used to tell me, because I used to read their stuff, and I've largely quit reading it just because it got to be annoying. I mean, I don't mind hearing differing opinions, but it almost got to be where Cato's like anti-Trump, never Trump. And that's just, I mean, that stuff gets annoying. It's just like, I don't know. So Cato used to always say that, well, don't you know that immigrants are on welfare at lower rates? They used to say this. They probably still do. Lower rates than Americans. And it's just like, well, just maybe we don't have enough immigrants. Maybe they're right. Maybe Native Americans, meaning not Native Americans, but the Americans that lived here, not immigrants. Maybe they're the problem. According to Cato, they're on welfare at higher rates. And it used to say all kinds of stuff. Well, this is saying something different. This says that 28% of households headed by native-born Americans are on welfare, and just 31% are on welfare. That includes both tax credits. So half of households headed by immigrants, legally and illegally, on welfare. Meanwhile, according to this study, which was quoted by Breitbart, which is now quoted by Ace of Spades, by, who is it wrote this? Is written by, this is the Morning Report. So this is written by, forgot his name. Let me see here. Oh, shit. It is written by J.J. Sefton. So J.J. Sefton's writing this or excerpting this, and it says that 50% of legally and illegal immigrants, half of those households are on welfare, one or more forms, and then 28% of native-born Americans are on welfare. It says countries with the highest welfare users in the U.S. include Afghanistan, Dominican Republic, 87% and 78% for those two, Guatemala, 77%, Honduras, 75%, and Mexico, 67%. But that's funny because, like I said, Cato says that's not the case. Cato, they say it's not. They say, no, it's the Americans who are the problem. I don't know. There you go. I had this interesting story, and this is just a side note. I went to the Lowe's the other day, and I don't know how many times you've seen this, and you may have a different response than me. You may be a bigger heart or whatever. But anyway, so I pulled into Lowe's, and there's this guy standing there with a kid on his shoulder, and he's holding her, and it's a little girl, probably less than 2 years old, let's say. And then there's another girl just standing there, and they're standing on one of the islands in the parking lot, and he's got a sign, and I didn't read it, but it's something to the effect of, give me money, I need money. Anyway, so maybe anything can help, or single dad. I don't know what it said. Anyway, he's standing there in the sun, holding one daughter, and then I guess it's his daughter, holding one child, and then another child's just there standing. And so I pulled in, and I usually don't say anything, but I was thinking, you know what? I don't know I'm going to call and see what can be done. So I called the non-emergency line on the sheriff's department. And I was in Pasco County, so I called and they answered. And the communications guy took my information. He's like, "We'll relay this to a deputy, and we'll investigate, or they'll do a welfare check." That's what they could do. I said, "Well, that's good, because maybe this guy really does need help, and he doesn't understand that there is help out there for people, and they don't have to stand in parking lots with their children in the sun." And so, anyway, I went in, I did my business, came back out, and just as I was pulling out, actually, I got a phone call. And I had to unblock my phone because I block all non-contacts, but I took it off. So a non-contact number came through, and I picked it up, and sure enough, it's like, "This is Deputy so-and-so from the Sheriff's Department. So what's going on?" And so I told him, and he sounded like he's a little agitated. He goes, "So yeah, basically the fact that he's there with his kids doesn't mean anything. There is a county ordinance against panhandling," because that's the term I use. I said he's panhandling. And I said, "I think, he's using these kids as props. I think he's just there to, use these kids as props, and he's panhandling." And he said, "Well, there's nothing that we could do about that." And he goes, "Just like if you were to live in the woods with your 2 kids in a tent, there's nothing we could do about that." And I said, "Okay, well, thanks a lot. Good to know." Anyway, so nothing was done. This guy, who knows how long he stayed out there with his kids in the sun. And I've seen this not a couple times. I've seen this a lot. And I've seen a lot at Home Depot, actually, which is interesting. Lowe's and Home Depot. I don't know why. But anyway, I just thought, well, that's interesting. So my immediate thought is, if that's the case, that I can live in a tent in the woods with my kids and there could be nothing done about it, what's the point of Children and Family Services? Is there a point? What do they do, actually? And it's just an honest question. I'm not trying to be, combative or anything, but just saying, what is the point of it? Because honestly, I don't think people should stand in the sun with their kids. If you really need help, I think you should go seek help. I don't think that is an honest thing where he's standing in the sun with his kids, and that's the only way he knows to get money. I think he's exploiting his children. I think that's wrong, and that's why I called. But nothing was done. But I thought to myself, I said, so what is the point of Children and Family Services then? What is the point of any of the multiple agencies we have in the state of Florida, paid for by tax dollars, if they can't do anything about someone who either can't take care of their children, or chooses to do it in ways that are, I think, abuse. And so that's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. What do they do? I'm sure they have caseloads, and I'm sure there's probably people out there who are right now yelling at their speaker, "You dumbass, don't you know that blah, blah, blah," whatever. But my point is this. What do they do? If it's really truly the case that if you can't take care of your children, or if you stand out in the road or in the parking lot with your children in the hot sun begging for money, and that's okay, then what's the point of those agencies? Because I'm just curious what they do. And I think a lot of what they do is just paperwork, a lot of cases, a lot of your typical things. I worked for the state a couple of times in my life, 2 or 3 times, and I know how it goes. But there's good people that work for the state, and then there's also the inertia of the state, which is basically bureaucratic inertia. Maintain your budgets, don't rock the boat, retire after 20 years, and that's kind of the general mission. I told Tracy before, every time we see these terrible stories in the news about a child that's been abused or a child that's been killed, I say, you know what? Look into the report and see. And they always have contact recently with the government. Usually they will have they were known to children and families. I think there was one time when there was a woman, a person who, I think it was in Tampa here, threw her daughter off a bridge. I think her daughter was special needs, and killed the daughter, drowned. And then sure enough, at the end of the story, it's like, oh yeah, this person was known, and they were, it's always the case. Just like when there's usually a shooter, there's always a part in the story where it's like, oh, this person was known to, our favorite government agency, and they were, that was known. So anyway, what's the point of it? I don't know what the point of it is, but yeah, that's interesting that this thing from Breitbart via Ace of Spades says that nearly half of all households held by immigrants, legally and illegally, are on welfare. And so I don't know. I mean, welfare state is I don't know. The welfare state exists, I think, for the furtherance of the quote unquote stakeholders of the welfare state. And the stakeholders of the welfare state are not people on welfare. Let's just get that out there. The stakeholders for the welfare state are the people who get the money from the people who are on the welfare. So the retailers, the people who have disposable income because they don't pay for their basic necessities, then they can go buy iPhones and things like that. Those are the real beneficiaries of the welfare state. Milton Friedman said once that and this was during the creation of Medicare. So this was way back when. I think this was when the Medicare was created in the 60s, I believe. 60, maybe it was under Lyndon Johnson. I think it was Social Security Act. Anyway, there's videos of Milton Friedman saying that the reason for the creation of those types of things, those types of programs, was to allow corporations to eat more freely at the trough. And I believe that's true. Let's see, what else do we have here? Switching gears a little bit. So we just went on this trip to Caribbean. We took off out of Port Canaveral and we went to Bahamas, and we also went to Dominican Republic aboard the MSC Grandiosa. So MSC Grandiosa is a big ship. I think it's 181,000 gross tons, around 1,093 feet. Don't quote me exact, but anyway, it's a big ship. It's called a mega ship, I guess. It's considered a mega ship. Although Royal Caribbean keeps building bigger and bigger ships, eventually it may be called a large ship. But I think currently it's deemed a mega ship. It's under 200,000. The big ships, the ones that Royal Caribbean's making currently, are 215,000 gross tons, just to give you some frame of reference. So anyway, this was the MSC Grandiosa, and we went on this trip with the kids, Tracy and I, and Olivia and Kaylee also went, and we had a good time. Now, MSC, don't tell anybody about MSC. If you're out there and you're a fan of MSC, you can go on it yourself. Besides making podcasts about it like I'm doing, don't tell anybody about it because I don't want anybody to find out. MSC, basically, for those of you who aren't familiar, is called MSC Cruises, and MSC, the parent company, is Mediterranean Shipping Company. So Mediterranean Shipping Company is this big, not historic. It's a what do you call it? Well-established shipping company called MSC, Mediterranean Shipping Company, and they have this separate, what do they call it? Vertical now called MSC Cruise Lines, and MSC largely cruises, mostly operates out of Europe, and they're very big worldwide. But they're making what do they call it? They're making entrees. Anyway, they're trying to get into inroads. They're making inroads into the United States market, and they are sailing in the Caribbean. They are sailing to Alaska. They're starting sailing into Alaska in 26, I believe, this year. Anyway, now they sail in the Caribbean mostly, and the Grandiosa was built, I believe, in 2014 maybe, or 2019. Anyway, it's recently built. The newest ships are bigger than the Grandiosa. They're called World Class. So the MSC World Atlantic, there's an MSC World something or another, World America that takes off out of Miami. The World Atlantic takes off out of Port Canaveral. Anyway, the reason I say don't tell anybody about it is because you can go on MSC Cruise. We had a balcony suite, which we never do. We usually just get balconies. Balcony suite, which had a separate bedroom with a whirlpool spa on the balcony. And it was the same cost as a comparable balcony on Norwegian Cruise Lines. So basically, the reason I say don't tell anybody because I don't want people starting to go to MSC and then the price go up. So MSC Cruise Lines is a very good bargain, and I think it's a good value. And the boats are beautiful. The boats are, I've been on Norwegian. I've been on Norwegian, Carnival, and MSC. I'm not like an extensive cruiser, but of all those MSC, those ships are just as good or better than any of the other ships I've ever been on. And the Grandiosa was good. The one thing about the Grandiosa, I will tell you though, is that Grandiosa was built for Mediterranean seas. And as a result, it is taller than a typical Caribbean built ship, meaning ship built specifically for the Caribbean. And because of that, it has a little bit of wind issue. So on the way back, we ran into some wind and waves, and it was a little bit rockier than you'd expect a 6,000 passenger boat to be. And so if you're susceptible to that, be careful of the Grandiosa. Now, there's another ship that we're going to go on in July, and it's called the MSC Seashore, which we've already been on, Tracy and I, and the kids are going to go on it. And Kaylee's actually been on it too before without us. But anyway, we're going to be on the MSC Seashore, and the Seashore is a smaller boat, not very much smaller. It's still over 1,000 feet, but I think it's, if I remember correctly, it's like 160 or maybe 170,000 gross tons. And so it's a little bit smaller in terms of weight, but it did not move as much as the Grandiosa. And I think it's because it's built for Caribbean, not built for the Mediterranean. Anyway, so this Grandiosa ship was a nice ship. We has a water park. It's got 2 slides that are like tube slides that you put tubes down. Then it's got one slide, which is a pretty cool slide. You don't use a tube on it, but it just like spins around, and then it spits you out. See these, if you're looking online, these are the 2 tube slides, and this little guy over here to the right, I think that's the one no, you can't see it. Yeah, this is the one that spits you out. So basically it's like a short turn. You're in the tube itself for maybe, I don't know, what's it like 2 seconds. And then it spits you out into this big kind of like bowl. And you just spin around in this bowl until you stop spinning. And then in the center of the bowl, there's the stairs. And you just like, as soon as you get your orientation back, you stand up and you walk off. So that was the water park. And then they had some great entertainment. The one thing I will say about MSC is their entertainment seems to be really good, on par with Norwegian. And I will compare it to Carnival, and I will say it's better. The singers were very good. We saw a tribute to Michael Jackson. We saw something that was kind of like it was like a Broadway type show about this guy who was what did he make? He made puppets, and then his wife died, and then he made a puppet that looked like his wife, and it came to life, and then that puppet was in love with another puppet, and then at the end, he let the 2 puppets go off together, so he had a big heart. Anyway, so that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. Go to drtommy.com/podcast. You can listen to us on any of the podcast platforms usually, although I say that you probably should just try Spotify, because actually there's been a problem with Apple. And I don't know how many people listen to Apple Podcasts, but anyway, you can get all the different places to go. Just go to drtommy.com/podcast. And you can also see us video feed on Rumble and YouTube. And we will see you on the other side. And I'm going to leave you with a little bit of my creation here from the AI. So until next time, bye-bye.